Hi, this is Klaus Meine.
And Matthias Jafs
from the Scorpions. You're listening to 89 FM Radio Rock.
So Scorpions is playing at Monster of Rock Brazil this year, and we can't wait. How is the expectation of the show, and what can we expect from it?
Rock show. We're going to rock Sao Paulo like a hurricane. It's great to come back to Brazil, you know. It's been a while, and we have many, many loyal fans in Latin America, and we're very excited to come back.
And you guys have been in Brazil multiple times. I just want to hear more about your connection with the Brazilian fans, because I'm sure they are like one of the most passionate ever.
Brazil are great, and the first time we ever played in Rio was in 1985 at the Rock in Rio, and we played it again a couple of years ago, and we've been to so many cities, including Manaus and, you know, of course, Sao Paulo and Rio and whatever, in many places, and the fans are just fantastic everywhere.
And you guys have been around for more than 50 years, and it's amazing legacy that you have. And I'm sure that along the way you learn about things on the road. And is that one advice that stuck with you guys that you wish that maybe someone would told you sooner, and that you could pass on to new generation of music?
You know, of course, we learned a lot when we started out from you know, other great bands, you know, like the generation before us. And we know that a lot of like young bands throughout the many years, you know, were listening to our music, learning from us. And, you know, we have a legacy of having, once we started in the US, having like great support bands like, you know, Iron Maiden, Def Leppard, Bon Jovi, all those bands used to play in front of us, and they all made it very big because they watched our show and they learned a lot and they made the best out of it.
As I said, that's nearly 60 years. That's a lot of time. What do you think is the key to the band's longevity, and also what's the main thing that keeps you going?
Yeah, you know, it's a band, you know, has to have a special chemistry, and it has to be based on friendship. Otherwise, you couldn't like stay together for such a long time. Of course, you know, there's the musical talent and the interest and the motivation to create new music all the time, and to be able to go on the road, like around the world. Sometimes our tours lasted for 2.5 years in one go. And, you know, that's a pretty, you know, tight schedule for every band. And, you know, with the Scorpions, you know, we are aiming for 60 years soon. So, you know, this, I think we are one of the few exceptions of bands that stay together that long.
And very recently, Wind of Change hit 1 billion views on YouTube, and you guys have a lot of classics as well. They're never fading away. So I'm wondering, like, when you sit down and just know the Scorpions gonna to live through a lot of generations of music, and it's gonna be present for so long, what do you think about?
To have a song that came out in all those years, like many others, you know, that means so much for fans around the world. And yeah, it's amazing to see that that song just cracked the magical line of a billion views on YouTube. You know, that's quite spectacular to imagine how many people all over the world listen to that song and still enjoy the meaning of peace and freedom, you know. And so it's a very important song for us to play. And since the war started in the Ukraine last year, you know, I changed a few lines in the song to support the Ukraine, the brave people in the Ukraine, you know. And yeah, it's a special song for us, and it's very emotional, and especially when we come back to Brazil, you know, it's always one of those big ballads that go down deep down in the emotions and really have a strong meaning for the fans.
And one thing I'm curious about is, what new artists do you have on your playlist? Like, what do you enjoy from this new generation of music?
For example, this band Greta Van Fleet from the US is pretty cool. Very inspired by Led Zeppelin, though, but a very good band. And we had the all-girls band as a support band in the US tour last year. They're called Thunder Mother. They're from Sweden. They're also very interesting. And any other new band you're listening to, Klaus?
Well, it's pretty much the same. You know, I always enjoy Greta Van Fleet. You know, it's one of those young and upcoming bands. Volbeat is another great band over here. I don't know if they're quite popular in Brazil. You know, over here you hear them a lot on rock radio. You know, there are a couple of great bands from the young generation. I mean, some of those bands like Volbeat, they're out there for quite a while, you know, but it's great to see that there's a young generation of rock artists, musicians, bands that carry the flame and keep going.
What was the name of the band you said, Klaus?
Volbeat.
Oh, I never heard of them. I'll sure look up too.
In Brazil, after all these years, we also enjoy a lot that Sepultura.
Yes.
Andreas Kisser, and it's a wonderful band and wonderful people, you know, and I hope on this trip back to Brazil we have a chance to meet each other again.
And about your latest album, Rock Believer, how was the process of getting everyone together to produce the materials? And also, what do you think were the noticeable, let's say, difference that you noticed when you compare it to writing music back then and now? Like, it's kind of a struggle to maybe reinvent yourself, or it's easier to produce new things?
Yeah, I mean, we took our time to record Rock Believer, and we are sitting in the same famous Peppermint studio right now. So it's all like a deja vu for us. And we started thinking about producing the album in Los Angeles, but then the pandemic hit and we had to like suffer from the travel restrictions, and that's why we had to stay in our hometown, and the producer couldn't make it over here. So we decided to produce it ourselves, and that was a lot of fun, and that's why I think it sounds like pure Scorpions more than as if we would have had the influence of an outside producer. And so we are quite happy with the album, and it was meant to to be recorded for our fans mainly, not so much, for any other reason.
And there are quite a few new songs of Rock Believer that made it into the set list, you know, so it's a nice mix between the classics, the big hits. So we have a chance to share the new material, the new songs of Rock Believer with our fans as well.
Another thing is that I loved you guys pretty much banned the word retirement from your vocabulary, and I'm sure that you're having fun touring and just living music as never before. But what are the next plans for the next chapter of Scorpions?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely go on the road now, starting in Latin America and for a couple of countries. And then we go back to Europe. We play Germany, where we haven't played in a long time, and, throughout all of Europe. And then we are already working on a plan for 2024, but it's too early to, say what we will be doing.
Great. Guys, I'm so happy you had the time to talk to us. I'm so honored. It's going to be awesome seeing Brazil. I sure wanted to be in all the shows you're doing, like in the whole country. Thank you so much for your time.
89, a Rádio Rock.